Right now, something is draining your energy. You don't feel it happening. You don't see it creeping in, silent as a shadow, but it's there, constant, relentless, taking more from you every single day. And the worst part, you're the one feeding it, pouring your life force into a bottomless pit without even realizing. The great scholar Al-Ghazali called this the invisible leak. He said most people spend their entire lives exhausted, dragging themselves through days, not because they're working too hard, but because they never learn to see where their energy is actually going. Not into their work, not into their relationships, but into something far more destructive, something eating you alive from the inside. Think about your typical day. Really picture it. You wake up with a certain amount of energy buzzing through you. Maybe you slept well for once. Maybe you even feel okay, alive, ready. But by noon, that spark's already fading. Your focus blurs, your shoulders slump. By evening, you're completely drained, collapsing on the couch, scrolling mindlessly just to numb the fatigue. And you tell yourself, it's normal. It's just life. It's the demands of work piling up, the endless responsibilities at home, the everything you have to do just to keep the plate spinning. But Al-Ghazali would pause you right there and ask a different question, one that cuts straight to your soul. What if the exhaustion has nothing to do with how much you're doing? What if it has everything to do with why you're doing it? Because here's what most people don't understand, what Al-Ghazali revealed after years of studying the human spirit. Energy doesn't come from rest or sleep or even coffee. Energy comes from alignment. You can sleep 12 hours straight, wake up in a king-sized bed with silk sheets, and still feel utterly exhausted if you're living a life that's misaligned with who you actually are. But flip it. You can work 14 grueling hours, sweat through challenges, and feel more energized at the end if what you're doing resonates with something deep, authentic inside you. The difference isn't in the hours clocked. The difference is in the source of fuel you're running on. Borrowed fumes that sputter out, or true fire that burns eternal. Al-Ghazali identified two types of energy with crystal clarity. He called them borrowed energy and true energy. Borrowed energy is what you get from external validation, the likes on your post, the boss's nod, the achievement trophy, the proving yourself over and over, the meeting everyone else's expectations, the constant winning of approval. This energy feels incredible at first. It gives you a rush, a high like winning the lottery. It makes you feel like you're on top of the world, invincible, unstoppable. But it's temporary. It burns fast, like cheap gasoline in a race car. And the moment the validation stops, the moment the achievement fades into yesterday's news, the moment people stop applauding and move on to the next shiny thing, you crash. Hard. You feel empty, hollow, like a deflated balloon. And then what? You need another hit, another achievement, another validation, another proof that you're enough. This is the invisible leak in action. This is where most of your energy is vanishing. To the constant, exhausting pursuit of borrowed energy, to trying to fill a hole in your soul that can never be filled from the outside. And the tragedy, you don't even realize you're doing it. You think you're just being ambitious, just working hard, just trying to make something of yourself. You post your wins on social media, chase that next promotion, say yes to every invite, all while telling yourself it's progress. But underneath it all, you're running on a fuel that's slowly, surely destroying you. Because borrowed energy doesn't just drain you when it runs out. No, it drains you while you're using it. Deep down, you know it's not real. Deep down, you know you're performing for an audience that doesn't truly see you. Deep down, you know that the moment you stop achieving, the moment you stop proving, the moment you drop the mask, the energy will evaporate like morning mist. Picture Sarah, a 32-year-old marketing exec I know. She chased every deadline, every client win, every atta girl from her boss. Six-figure salary, corner office, Instagram, perfect. But at night, crying in the bathroom, exhausted to her bones. Why? Borrowed energy. The invisible leak had her by the throat. True energy is completely different, profoundly, liberatingly different. True energy comes from within. It comes from doing things that align with your actual values, not the values you think you should have to fit in. It comes from connecting with people who see the real you, not the polished version you're performing for likes. It comes from pursuing goals that matter to you, not goals that look impressive on a resume or family reunion. True energy doesn't burn out. It doesn't need constant refueling from outside sources like applause or paychecks. It sustains itself because it's rooted in something real, something unbreakable, something that can't be taken away no matter what. No layoffs, no rejections, no fading trends. It's the quiet fire in your chest when you're writing poetry at 2 a.m. just because it lights you up, or helping a friend without expecting thanks, or hiking a trail that speaks to your soul. But here's the brutal problem Al-Ghazali hammered home. Most people have been running on borrowed energy for so long, years, maybe decades, that they don't even know what true energy feels like anymore. They've spent their lives building a version of success designed to impress others. The perfect house, the promotion ladder, the social circle that claps loudest, designed to meet endless expectations, parents, societies, their own inner critics, designed to prove their worth in a world that screams, "You're not enough." And somewhere along that shiny, exhausting way, they lost touch with what actually energizes them. They forgot what it feels like to do something simply because it matters to them, not because it earns a gold star. They forgot the joy of being with people without performing, without calculating every word for approval. They forgot the thrill of pursuing a goal without needing to prove anything to anyone. Take my uncle. He climbed corporate ranks for 30 years, golfed with execs, drove the BMW. Retired, depressed, lost. "I don't know who I am without the title," he said. Borrowed energy blackout. Al-Ghazali experienced this firsthand, and his story hits like a thunderbolt. He was at the absolute peak of his career, a world-respected scholar in 11th century Baghdad, holding the most prestigious teaching position at the Nizamiya Madrasa. Everyone wanted his approval. Kings sought his wisdom. Students hung on his every word. He had everything. Society said would bring fulfillment, status, wealth, admiration flow in like the Tigris River. But inside, he was empty, exhausted, running on borrowed energy, slowly dying from the invisible leak. Every lecture he gave drained him further. Every student he taught felt like a performance. Every achievement earned just widened the hole. His body finally gave out. One day, in the middle of a grand speech, his voice cracked, his legs buckled. Not because he was working too hard, but because he was working for the wrong reasons. Every word, every nod, every applause was feeding the leak instead of filling his soul. So he stopped. Completely. He walked away from everything, the fame, the position, the expectations. Sold his books, left the city, wandered into the desert for solitude and study. And in that radical stopping, in that terrifying decision to no longer chase borrowed energy, he discovered something profound, something that changed humanity forever. True energy was there all along, waiting quietly, patiently, like a hidden spring in the sand. It had always been there, bubbling under the surface, but he'd been too busy chasing validation to notice it, too busy performing for crowds to feel it, too busy proving his brilliance to access it. As he wrote in his Deliverance from Error, I perceived that I was absorbed in examining religious and philosophical opinions, but my soul was not at rest. Brothers and sisters, this is what he wants you to understand today. The exhaustion you feel is not because you're doing too much. It's because you're doing things for the wrong reasons. Every time you say yes when you mean no, to that extra shift, that draining friend, that obligation you hate, you drain your energy. Every time you perform instead of being genuine, at work, on dates, in family dinners, you drain your energy. Every time you chase achievement to prove your worth instead of expressing your truth, like posting your perfect life online, you drain your energy. Every time you seek validation from people who don't truly see you, scrolling for likes, fishing for compliments, you drain your energy. This is the invisible leak, and it's killing you slowly, day by day, drop by drop. Remember Mike, the teacher who stayed late grading papers not for the kids but for the principal's praise? Burned out at 40, quit everything. The leak won until he saw it. So how do you stop it? How do you shift from borrowed energy to true energy? Right now, today. Al-Ghazali said it starts with brutal honesty. No sugarcoating, no excuses. You have to look at your life square in the mirror and ask uncomfortable questions that burn like fire. Why am I really doing this job? Is it because it matters to me, lights my soul, or because it looks good on LinkedIn? Am I pursuing this goal, the house, the degree, the relationship, because I want it deep down, or because I think I should want it to fit the script? Am I in this friendship because I love this person truly, or because I need their approval to feel okay? Am I working this hard, nights, weekends, no breaks, because I'm passionate about the mission, or because I'm trying to prove I'm not a failure? These questions are painful, like ripping off a scab. The answers reveal how much of your life is built on borrowed energy, how much of your daily grind is pure performance, how much of your identity is constructed to impress the world instead of express your real self. But this pain is necessary, brothers and sisters, because you can't change what you can't see. And most people never see the invisible leak because they're too afraid to look, to admit they've built a castle on sand. Once you see it, once you admit how much energy you're wasting on things that don't actually matter to you, you can start making different choices. Small ones at first, but powerful. Say no to that party you dread. Watch the energy flood back. Be honest about how you feel instead of performing fine. Feel the relief wash over you. Pursue something that matters to you, even if it doesn't impress a soul, like finally picking up that guitar gathering dust. Spend time with people who see you, the real you, instead of chasing approval from surface-level crowds. Each choice feels risky at first, because when you stop running on borrowed energy, the external validation stops. People who loved your performance might ghost your authenticity. Opportunities that came from impressing might vanish. The applause fades to silence, and for a moment, you'll feel exposed, vulnerable, like you've lost something vital, like jumping without a net. But what you've actually lost is the exhaustion. What you've actually lost is the constant need to prove yourself. What you've actually lost is the invisible leak that was draining you dry, hour by hour. And in that scary open space, true energy begins to emerge, not as a wild rush, not as a flashy high, but as a steady, sustainable force, like the sun rising calm and sure. You wake up and feel present instead of anxious, breathing easy. You work and feel engaged, flowing like water instead of performing for invisible judges. You spend time with people and feel connected, heart to heart, instead of evaluated like a product. You pursue goals and feel aligned, purposeful, instead of desperate and frantic. This is what it feels like to run on true energy. It's not dramatic, it's not flashy, but it's real, deep, and unbreakable. And at last, as Al-Ghazali warned in his deepest teachings, most people never experience this because they're addicted to borrowed energy. Like a drug they can't quit. They're addicted to the rush of achievement, the high of validation, the temporary glow of feeling enough from external approval. And like any addiction, it requires more and more to get the same effect. You need bigger achievements, more impressive accomplishments, wider recognition, louder applause, and the invisible leak grows larger. The exhaustion deepens, turns chronic, until one day you wake up at 50, realizing you've spent your entire life chasing energy instead of cultivating it, chasing shadows while the real light waited inside. But it doesn't have to be this way. You can choose differently. Today, you can choose to stop feeding the leak. You can choose to start living from your actual values instead of borrowed expectations. You can choose to pursue what energizes you instead of what impresses others. You can choose to be seen for who you are instead of applauded for who you're pretending to be. This is not easy. It requires letting go of the identity you've slaved over for years. It requires disappointing people, saying no to mom's shoulds, your boss's demands. It requires walking away from things that look good but feel empty, like that toxic job or fake friendships. But it's the only way to stop being exhausted. It's the only way to access the energy that's been waiting inside you all along, patient as Al-Ghazali's desert spring. Here's what Al-Ghazali discovered in his years of solitude and study, what he poured into books that still echo today. True energy is infinite. It doesn't run out because it's not dependent on external circumstances. No recessions, no breakups, no failures can touch it. It doesn't deplete because it's rooted in alignment with your actual self. You can give from this energy without becoming empty because you're not performing. You're expressing. And expression, unlike performance, doesn't drain you. It fulfills you, fills you up like rain on parched earth. Think about the times in your life when you felt most alive, not most successful, not most impressive to the world, but most alive, electric, free. What were you doing? Chances are you weren't thinking about how it looked to others. You weren't worried about approval or metrics. You weren't performing for an audience, real or imagined. You were simply present, simply engaged, simply being yourself without filter or fear. Maybe it was laughing with your childhood best friend till dawn, or painting just for the colors, or walking barefoot in the grass. That's true energy. That's what it feels like when you're not leaking, and that state is available to you right now. Not someday when you've achieved enough. Not after you've proven yourself to the world. Right now. But accessing it requires a radical shift, a 180-degree turn. It requires valuing alignment over achievement, connection over impression, truth over performance, being over endless doing. And for most people, this feels impossible because they've built their entire identity on borrowed energy. Their whole sense of worth comes from external validation, the salary, the followers, the yes from others. Their entire life structure depends on the approval they're chasing. And letting go? It feels like death, like losing everything, like becoming nobody. But Al-Ghazali would grab you by the shoulders and say, "This is not death. This is birth. What you're losing is the false self, the performing self, the exhausted self that's been trying to earn love instead of accepting it. And what's being born is your actual self, the one that doesn't need to prove anything, the one that has value simply by existing, the one that runs on true energy and never burns out. This self has been waiting your entire life, buried under layers of performance, expectation, and borrowed energy, waiting for you to finally stop, to finally rest, to finally come home to yourself. The invisible leak stops the moment you stop feeding it, when you stop living for applause and start living from truth, when you stop chasing borrowed energy and start accessing what's already inside you. This doesn't mean you stop working. No. This doesn't mean you stop pursuing goals or loving fiercely. This doesn't mean you become passive sitting on a mountaintop. It means you work from a different source. You pursue goals that align with who you are, not who you think you should be. You engage with life from presence instead of performance. And here's what nobody tells you. When you make this shift, when you stop the invisible leak, you don't have less energy. You have more, infinitely more, because you're no longer wasting it on things that don't matter. You're no longer draining yourself trying to be someone you're not. You're no longer exhausted from the constant soul-crushing performance. You have energy for what actually matters, for the people you love without strings, for work that fulfills your deepest purpose, for pursuits that align with your truth. Not because you're doing less, but because you're no longer leaking like a sieve. Al-Ghazali's secret is simple but profound. Stop asking, "What will make me look good?" and start asking, "What will make me come alive?" Stop seeking energy from validation and start cultivating energy from alignment. Stop performing your life and start living it. The invisible leak closes the moment you choose truth over impression. And in that moment, you discover what's been true all along. You were never running out of energy. You were just using it on the wrong things. True energy was always there, waiting for you to finally stop leaking and start living. The drain stops now, the moment you decide it does. Choose truth, choose alignment, choose you. Your energy is infinite. Welcome home.